Alrighty, let's see if this helps the situation any. Let's see if we get a better response to this stream. Hello and welcome, greetings and salutations. Going to talk about the DHS shutdown, going to talk about Pam Bondi's crash out in Congress, and we're going to talk about the decision the United States EPA made to allow the they've decided to let the world burn and to watch for fun and profit. They've reversed the endangerment finding. I believe it was in 2008 or 2009. It was a rule that, yes, indeed, vehicle pollutions, tailpipe emissions, things like that are something that the EPA can regulate because they are harmful to human life. They endanger human life. That's why it's called the endangerment finding. Well, the EPA has decided to reverse that. Why? Because auto manufacturers have lobbied hard for its reversal for years. Bro, your guy, you've done fucking tried to make the conversation about this once. We're not going to do it again. Phoebe with the brand new stream. Actually, I was streaming a few minutes ago, but for some reason YouTube didn't notify that much of my audience. So here I am again, ready to start anew. The defrosting begins. Does it? Does it? Make sure you guys are hitting that like button as you're rolling in, by the way. It really does help. I didn't pimp it much last stream, and I think my algorithm position suffered for it. And yeah, the defrosting has begun with the closure of the Department of Homeland Security, temporarily, admittedly. But right now, ICE and CBP are having to rely on their own independent budgets, which means if the DHS does want to maintain any of its operations, it's going to have to pull or ask to pull from those budgets. It's incredibly important to not understate what a victory this is for the people of Minnesota, that at least some lawmakers in this country have responded to the pressure, and that they haven't, you have to understand what a massive process this is. Anytime you shut down a part of the government, it's like turning off a power station or some big part of the infrastructure. There are whole systemic measures that have to be taken before that's ready to be brought back online, and during the interim they're going to have to pull resources from other places to fulfill the basic and most important functions that the DHS has been tasked with. By the way, functions which used to belong to other agencies. To be able to throw a wrench into the system like this is evidence of the power that collective action has. Yeah, ICE is funded, but DHS isn't. That's the important distinction. DHS is not funded as of 12 a.m. last night. So they've been in shutdown all day today, and they'll be in shutdown again or I'm sorry, they'll be in shutdown for as long as it takes for some kind of deal to be reached on these negotiations when it comes to ICE funding, which is not going to happen, by the way, unless Republican lawmakers come over and agree to start imposing some restrictions on ICE actions. This invasion into blue cities and states will stop because the American people aren't putting up with it. We are mounting a massive protest resistance all across this country. And the evidence of our success is evident in the closure of the Department of Homeland Security, even if it is temporary. The funding being stopped has made no difference. Maybe not for now. Maybe not, maybe it hasn't had time yet. But just you wait. Just you wait. Are you an anarchist? I am. I am indeed. Phoebe, did you know the head of SEAL Team 6, what was going on? The head of SEAL Team 6 was arrested for acts with a minor than the CIA, paid off the judge, and had someone cop to the same crime in his place. Richard Marchenko was his name. Not surprising at all. The United States government loves corruption when it's corruption in their favor. The United States government is, and has been for a long time, willing to play ball to protect their most corrupt and important assets. The way it works is we basically have an abundance of funding and go through that or route through debt like a credit from a bank. Then when funding is brought back, it gets paid back. Same for pay. Yeah, but all of that debt accrues interest. All of that debt adds to the overall bill that's got to be paid. All of that has to be justified to American taxpayers later on down the road. None of this looks good for your institution. None of this looks good for the feds. None of this. What it basically says to the American people is that our Congress is so incapable of getting past its own gridlock that we're having to shut down an entire department of the United States government because there are a bunch of senators unwilling to place basic restrictions on some of the people paid by that department, and it's incurring a bunch of bureaucratic costs and a bunch of debt that will go on to harm the various bureaucrats in power right now. What do you do for work? Here, I'll show you. If you'd like to have your question or comment read or answered, consider sending a super chat. This is an audience-funded channel, and every dollar that you spend here goes towards the upgrades and continued maintenance of a channel that is pretty cool at providing an interesting place for dialogue from all across the political spectrum to flourish. Okay, that was not my best pitch ever, but that's the idea, okay? Not my best pitch. Not my best pitch. I'll grant you that. Are you Jewish? No. No, I'm not Jewish. Unfortunately for me. You look like that kid that hit the ICE supporter. Unfortunately, once again, not me. The high T weight maxing Chad. The high T weight maxing Chad that totally fist smogged a right wing chud. That kid is a Terra Chad. That kid is a Giga Chad. This is not a corncob pipe. This is a regular briar pipe. And actually, I think it's a synthetic. New to your channel, are you a communist? I mean, I certainly think that Karl Marx had a lot of correct critiques about the system of labor as it existed at his time, and I think that many of those critiques of labor can be applied to the current class structure But I would kind of consider myself like post-communist in certain ways because I think that Karl Marx did not go nearly far enough, and I think that his um, critiques of society and his prescriptions for what should happen in the future are largely colored by his own class position. So I'm a bigger fan of like anarchist thinkers than I am of communist thinkers generally, but I certainly don't see enough differences between myself and the average communist to make much of a fuss about being called one. Does that make sense? I'm not satanic, no. How do you feel about Zionists, or is that too deep? No, that's not too deep. Um, if by Zionist you mean someone who thinks that the state of Israel should exist under some kind of like unitary one state solution where there's like an Israeli state and a Palestinian state and they exist together under the same unitary government, then okay, I guess I'm fine with that. Most Zionists, though, want an Israel that is entirely comprised of lands that used to be Palestinian and that has exclusive domination over those lands, that discriminates against Palestinians and shit like that, and I'm not in favor of that. Any kind of solution for the IP problem that involves giving Israel unlimited and unchecked power over the people of Gaza and the West Bank is an idea that I cannot support. What's in the pipe? Tobacco. What do you think of them transgenders? Well, considering I am one of them transgenders, it would be pretty weird if I'm anti-trans, wouldn't it? Ancient alien theory. Please respond. I know you have thoughts like on this as well. Well, I don't think that ancient aliens are responsible for all the technological evolutions that human beings have made throughout the years. In fact, I've always felt like there's a strange sort of like Nazi dog whistle that's kind of like featured in a lot of those theories, which is like the idea, because nobody says anything like that about the Colosseum or any of the works of Rome or anything like that. So it really does seem to me like, isn't it convenient how it's all brown people, Arabs, Middle Easterners, Native Americans, people like that are always having their great works reduced to ancient aliens? Isn't it awfully convenient? Isn't it awfully strange in a country like America with the white nationalist roots that we do, you know? Who would you want for president next cycle? Isn't it a bit early to me making calls like this, friend? Isn't it a bit early? I don't know. I genuinely do not think that there is anyone in the Democratic Party right now, except maybe Ro Khanna, who I could even remotely support in a Democratic primary for 2028. So I have no idea who I might support in the general election. We don't even know who's going to be running yet, really. So maybe Ro Khanna, if he decides to run. Kamala Harris 2028 is a failing proposition. Nobody liked her. She did not primary in a single state in 2020. Do not put Kamala Harris back up there. If there's any Democratic operatives watching this channel, I'm telling you, I am not the only crazy leftist that's not going to vote for Kamala Harris. I'm not, you know what? There's plenty of fucking regular moderates and progressives that aren't going to vote for her either. She is not likable. Gavin is toast too. Yeah, he's declaring Ronald Reagan Day in California. Gavin Newsom is a non-starter of a candidate as well. You aren't that cool, bro? I don't want to be cool. I don't give a fuck about being cool. I'm not ignoring any questions, but it is hard to read every single question that happens in the chat, which is why I always tell people, if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending it either in a Cash App donation, you can find that in the description below, or in a Super Chat. Either way, I will see it. Either way, I'll read it, and your voice will become part of the discourse. Jon Stewart, 2028? Maybe. I'll tell you my criteria for supporting a Democrat going into 2028. They must believe in the following three things. 1. Ranked choice voting. 2. Universal health care. 3. infrastructure renewal here in America with an eye towards public transit. Universal health care, you paying for that? I gladly would. You realize as a self-employed person, I'm probably taxed at a higher rate than you are. Yes, I would be way, way, way happier with my taxes going to pay for the health care of my fellow human being rather than paying for the bombing of endless people overseas. Why is it that we can afford endless dollars for endless bullets to fly towards Russians in Ukraine, or to fly towards Palestinians in Israel, or to fly towards Venezuelans? Why do we have endless bombs for Maduro? Why do we have endless bombs against the Palestinians? Why do we have endless artillery shells against the Russians in Ukraine? Why do we have endless money for foreign adventurism, but no money at all for domestic health care? Can someone make that make sense to me, please? Do you know about BlackRock and Vanguard, the two private equity firms currently responsible for a massive amount of the capital consolidation? Like, yeah, 100%. They are just another representative of the big monster that we're talking about, which is the monster of capitalism, the monster of private interest. Universal healthcare is not that expensive. Insurance companies artificially increase the price. Yep, 100%. Literally, having insurance companies makes the price of healthcare more expensive because you've placed a profit motive in between patients and getting their care. You've placed additional profit motives in between patients. Even if we did have a private healthcare system, but private healthcare insurance was banned, healthcare providers would be forced to lower rates. Providers, even if you had a private healthcare model, right, and you just didn't have insurance companies, we would probably be better off, genuinely, if we had a private healthcare system without any insurance companies, because at least then the medical industry would not be able to survive without charging rates that people could actually pay sensibly, feasibly. So yeah, the fact that there is an insurance company which can distribute the costs over ever increasing premiums over an ever wider base of premium holders, that creates even greater bureaucratic overhead. That creates even greater cost to the consumer. If you were born into a wealthy family, you would have opposite opinions, and America is the best place for a nobody to become wealthy. See, I think you're actually right. If you were born into a wealthy family, you would have opposite opinions. Yeah, because this is a country founded on class struggle. It is a country predicated on the rich being able to oppress the poor. So yeah, if you're born poor in this country, there's a very good chance that you are going to come out of that with socialist and communist opinions, because you will have directly experienced the fucking oppression of the capitalist. You will have directly experienced what it means to not be as privileged as someone born into wealth. You've made my argument for me. You could just get good at capitalism. Interesting theory. Do you think that's open to everybody? I mean, it's open to me. Like, I work for myself presently. Every dollar that I use to pay my bills comes out of the money that I earn with my YouTube account. And I make, like, 70, or what is it? Like 66% of every dollar I make through Super Chat goes to me. YouTube's cut is pretty severe, but it's not nearly as severe as the cut I would get working for someone else. So, under a lot of definitions, I am doing capitalism better than a lot of people. The only reason I've got this out, though, is because I'm A, charismatic, and B, brave enough to put myself out on the internet like multiple times a day, multiple times a week, regularly. Like, these are things that are not open to everyone. Most people don't have the option to just start their own business. It's only been in the last 20 years that the development of technology has created an atmosphere where nobodies can sometimes go viral enough to start making uh, making a living off the internet, or um, finding people that can invest in their business or whatever. But there's like a degree of charisma, presentation, and time that you have to dedicate to this process that a lot of people just don't have. Like, how are you supposed to, like, how do you genuinely look at a, like, let's say you've got some single mom, she's working two jobs to make ends meet, and paying a babysitter to watch her kid for half the time when they're not at school, just so like she can afford to pay for an apartment of her own and pay for the upkeep of her child and everything else. How do you look at that person and say, "Oh, well, you should just do capitalism better"? Like, why don't you just get a better job, you know? Like, what about, why don't we just pay the people that are necessary for making our economy run better? What about, why don't we just provide a basic social safety net so that we can all do more with what little time we're given in our lives? Yeah, by the way, if I ever get to the point where I'm making millions of dollars, I'm going to be spending a big portion of that uplifting poor people, uplifting community organizing, uplifting the organization and solidarity of everyday working people. So if I ever get better at capitalism, I'm just going to use it to undermine capitalism, which is, by the way, what a lot of lefties who do figure out some way to get good at capitalism, that's what a lot of them do with their money. By the way, hit that like button if you're watching the stream. If you've been liking it for, I'm sorry, if you've been watching it for fucking 22 minutes, you're liking the stream. So come on and hit that button. It really does not take much, and it helps the stream immensely. It helps me out, and it makes me feel better about myself. You know, every single time you hit that stream, an angel gets its wings and a gay person goes back in the closet. So hit that like button. I sent a gift, liked and subscribed, buddy. Well, thank you, Matt Taylor Films. I appreciate that. I appreciate the gift. I see it. Most of us would help. That's why we're not millionaires. Precisely. It is actually kind of ironic when people talk shit about poor people and them not being good at capitalism. It is kind of funny and ironic in a certain way that a lot of people that are incredibly poor or that are just lower middle class spend a lot of their extra money uplifting their friends and family and uplifting community organizing efforts. I mean, I know I've donated to that kind of thing before. I know I've definitely spent hundreds of dollars of my own money throughout my life on making sure that the people around me had enough to eat or heat or whatever it is. So it's like, if you're poor, you are more willing to engage in community activism. You're more willing to engage in the uplifting of your fellow human being. And that's because you know that there's ultimately nobody looking out for poor people but other poor people. We have nobody but ourselves. It's crazy that there are people so ridiculously rich that they would never be able to spend it in theirs or their descendants' lifetime, and they still want to hoard it. That is insane to me. I don't understand that drive whatsoever. I don't understand it one little tiny bit. Now, I can imagine wanting to have enough money to have nice things. That's easy for me to conceive of. But once you get those nice things, why would you ever be defensive of the mere idea that you should be allowed to have more than your fellow man? Like, it really is a distinct and axiomatic difference between certain classes of people. There are just certain people in this country that genuinely believe that every fucking dollar they are able to put into their bank account should be theirs and theirs alone, and nobody should ever be able to tap into that for the betterment of their fellow man, no matter what fucked up and corrupt auspices they used to get that money. There are just some people that don't have morals. They don't have human empathy. They have they have a mind of metal and wheels and dollar signs and little change dings, and that's all they've got. Big words for a big girl. Thanks, Austin. I don't know what to do with that, but I appreciate it. A 30-plus-year-old flexing that I've spent hundreds of dollars to feed others, that's nothing. Well, I mean, I wouldn't like expect someone to believe me if I said thousands, but it's probably been in the order of a couple of thousand that I've like spent in one fashion or another to make sure that my friends and family have eaten. But hey, whatever. You do you. Belief or disbelief rests with you. Um, for the record, I'm 27, not 30 plus years old. I'm only 27. What happened to your chin? I cut it shaving. Horrible tragedy. So smug? Well, yeah, a little bit. Look at the caliber of chatter that I'm dealing with, though. Don't you like? How else would you suggest I respond to this? You know, like, do you really think coming at it with a less smug attitude is going to get me inroads with these people? I don't think so. They're here to fuck on me. I'm here to fuck on them back. I didn't time anybody out. And all Preddy did before getting pinned was try to help some girl get to the sidewalk after getting shoved and sprayed in the face by an ICE agent. And he had his hand on his phone. Even when he was pinned on the ground, he had both hands clearly on his phone, was not reaching for his gun. He was not shot until he was already fucking disarmed. So don't come at me with any information about the Alex Preddy shooting. That man was murdered by federal agents on live TV in front of millions of people's eyes, and you will not gaslight me or anyone else about it. And you know what? If it had been a maggot holding a MAGA sign during the Biden administration, I'd be saying the same goddamn thing, but you motherfuckers would be squeaking a different tune. You motherfuckers would be talking about how, oh, he didn't deserve to die. You'd be on my side. You motherfuckers have no morals or principles. Not all of you. But if you look at Alex Preddy's shooting and you want to justify it in any way, you have a narrative reason for believing the things you believe that is not actually tied to reality. Dipshit gun owner to carry a P320. Yeah, well, being a dipshit gun owner shouldn't get you fucking shot. I know plenty of dipshit gun owners. Craig on Jen. I grew up in Mississippi. Come on now. I know plenty of dipshit gun owners, and I wouldn't want my Uncle Cletus getting murked by ICE either, okay? Why do you think you were entitled to my hard-earned bills? Why you are just sitting here bitching about it instead of earning your own money? Bro, Goosey TV, I don't want to be fucking condescending to you, bro, but I probably take home more of the value of my labor than you do. YouTube takes 33% of the super chats I make here. I get to keep the other 66%. What's your fucking breakdown like at your business? Because unless you own your own business, you're getting fucked over and out of 99% of your labor value. That's the whole thing that makes business in the modern capitalist atmosphere profitable. Fucking you out of your labor value. Paying you $25 an hour for what's worth $100 an hour. Paying you $7 an hour for what's worth $80 an hour. Alex spat on/in ICE vehicles and proceeded to damage their rear bumper. Yeah, like weeks before he was shot. Are you seriously going to say that a little vandalism justifies being executed in the streets? If so, there's about a hundred. If so, there's a ton. They should all be shot. Weeks that was in the same clip. It might have been put in the same clip in the what fucking little subreddit you saw it in, but those are two different incidents on two different days. The slide looks like it discharged. The slide looks like it's been manipulated to look like it's been discharged. I would not agree that there's any evidence to believe that it discharged. The gun doesn't look like it's discharged when it's being brought away from Alex Pretty before he's shot. The gun looks in a perfectly operable condition to me. It does not look like it's just. I just do not agree with your characterization of this event, Cragon, and I feel like you are ultimately only so adamant about it because you have a narrative reason in believing why it's okay for him to be shot. Notice me, senpai. What's up? What's up, Math Pig? I see you in here. You couldn't catch me following federal officers to disrupt them trying to get... They weren't trying... Okay, following someone is not disruption. Especially when it's law enforcement and shit. Like, you have a First Amendment right to record law enforcement. What problem do you have with transparency? Like, why does the very concept of transparency bother you, friend? I just know about guns? Right. But, like, why would you be making such a stink about him being a stupid gun owner and not following, like, better gun safety protocols and shit like that if you weren't trying to justify his shooting? If you weren't trying to provide some sort of tacit secondary justification for why it's actually okay that he got shot dead like a dog in the street. For some reason, here's the thing that gets me. I had a thing that I said for 3 months after Charlie Kirk got shot. I think Charlie Kirk was a backwards, bigoted moron who nevertheless did not deserve to be shot dead like a dog on the street. Didn't deserve it, flat out. It was bad. It was a tragedy. An evil thing committed by an evil person. But for some reason, I cannot get most conservatives to say that about Alex Pretty. To say, you know what? I think that Alex Pretty was totally wrong politically, and I think that he probably made some mistakes when it came to his armament, but he was unequivocally murdered in the street by a federal agent after being disarmed, and that is an unjustified use of force that needs to be investigated and prosecuted. Why can you guys not say that? Very simple. Super chat, bitches. Man, I gotta get myself the fuck up out of Mississippi, dog. This fucking place is a nightmare. This fucking place is scary as shit. There's something about the West that I got used to that I just fucking can't get over now that I'm back home. Here in Mississippi, you can't go 5 fucking miles without finding yourself in a giant fucking swamp or stand of trees or something. And for some people, living in the deep forest is like their ideal and they love it and it's great and it's awesome. But for me, like, I really fucking got well used to the sense of security that living in the wider, more open spaces of the West provided me. Like, see, if you're like, like just anywhere in the West, there's a very good chance that you're not surrounded by a giant wall of trees. And even if you kind of are, there's like a seclusion to all of the places that are like that. It does not exist here. You know, something could come from any fucking angle down here and I just would not know it, you know? But if I lived somewhere out west, it's like I stayed in all kinds of Walmart parking lots and shit like that when I was living out west in the minivan, where I was able to see who was entering and leaving the parking lot from all the way in the back. I was able to see the people going up and down the highway, and I was able to keep very good track of my surroundings and everything. And I just feel like I don't know what's fucking going on here, dude. But I'll hear coyotes, and I know because of the way sound gets distorted by trees and time and distance and all that, I'm not able to fucking figure out how far they are, and like they sound even weirder because of all the trees and the water and all that. And it's just ugh, man, the swamp. I'm done with it. Done. Get me out of here. Get me the fuck out of here. I want to go. Alex introduced a firearm into the situation. Bro, he has a fucking right to carry a gun. It's the fucking Second Amendment. You need a leftist to tell you this? Like, now, whatever. I've been a super pro-gun leftist for fucking years now. It was not Alex Pretty that made me come out on the fucking right side of this position, but how the fuck is it that there has been an effective party switch on the matter of guns? Can somebody explain that to me? You need to stop eating the Tide Pods? Bro, that is a fucking deep cut. That is a fucking deep cut, bro. 10 years old fucking drama. It's not about rights. Forget all that. There would have never been a shooting if he didn't bring a gun. It is about rights. You can't forget about all that. You are trying to slip a premise by me like a Nazi would. I'm not calling you a Nazi. I'm just saying you're engaging in a tactic that is very recognizable. I don't agree with you that we need to drop it and forget about it. You have a right to carry a firearm here in the United States. Specifically, we're supposed to be all members of a well-regulated citizen militia. What that means is that you should follow the laws of carrying in your state, which Alex Pretty was. He was following the laws. And when a cop shoots you under the suspicion that you might have a gun on you, despite the fact that you have not reached for your gun and you are fully restrained, that is a direct threat to every American's Second Amendment rights. And if you can't see it as such, it's because you have been brain poisoned by a movement that demands you not see it as a violation of your Second Amendment rights. It's because you've been brain poisoned by a movement that wants to strip you of your autonomy, your decision making, and your ability to think critically. You've been stun locked by a movement that's going to trap you in ineptitude for the rest of your life. He didn't pull it. That's the thing. He wasn't shot until after he was disarmed. His hand never went towards his holster. Never. You never see his hand go towards his holster the entire time in the footage. Either way, though, by the time they fucking shoot him, he's restrained. They've got multiple officers around. Fuck his life. Isn't it fucking officer safety to not shoot a dude when you got 6 fuckers around you? This is what I mean when I say you have a narrative reason for believing the things you do not believe them because they are true or reflective of reality and an accurate reading of the Constitution. You believe them because you've been told to. People out here saying because an accidental discharge happens, it can be defended for killing someone. It's just sad. I know. Yeah, I'm sorry, Cragon. I fucking fundamentally do not agree with you. If you shoot somebody because an accidental discharge happens, you need to be evaluated for your fucking capacity for situational awareness. Where to link? I can pretend to be a MAGA grinder, lol. Are you saying you want to come on stream? Math Pig, is that what you're trying to say? Thank you for the £2, by the way. I appreciate that. If anybody else would like to donate, consider doing so through my Cash App or through the Super Chat button. Either way is super appreciated. We are completely audience funded over here. I'm not big enough to talk to an advertiser or a sponsor, and they probably don't want my crazy trans and fucking anti-fascist anarchist ass anyway. So consider donating like the kind Math Pig just did. I still donate and you ain't read shit? Okay, well, let me see. Hold on. You might have donated and I didn't see it. Hold on. I'll check. I'll look. Let me look. You might have said something, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see you. I didn't see you say anything. I'm a conservative. I usually support the right, but they murdered that fella. But I also spat at them, which is a soul and was not peaceful. Can't drown if you don't play in the water. Okay, so here's the thing. I agree with you that spitting on someone is not acceptable and you shouldn't do it. But you agree with me that he was murdered. So as far as I'm concerned, we agree on the pertinent facts. Like, we can disagree about the severity to which spitting on somebody and that form of assault should be punished. Personally, I think that during times of high political tension, it should be kind of applied on a fucking case-by-case basis. I wouldn't want to see Alex Preddy go to prison for spitting on a cop, you know? I wouldn't want to see a MAGA go to prison for spitting on a cop during a fucking counter-protest for some lefty thing, you know? I'm just generally in favor of a very robust and loud and vociferous kind of public discourse. Now, you know, like, there should be some discouragement of things like spitting on somebody or throwing a drink on somebody, but I would make it more conditional, I think, if I was made the grand poobah of America and its justice system. It's like, if you do it during a time of high political tension, I think that there's like, okay, it's kind of like how we don't prosecute people for murder the same as we do like a crime of passion, you know? Like, if you murder somebody, like, murder in the first is treated differently if it's deemed a crime of passion, you know? So, yes, he was murdered, but he shouldn't have been there to be murdered, was my point. Well, like, why not, though? Because we have a First Amendment right to record police. We have a First Amendment right to record federal agents. We have a First Amendment right. Like, it's, like, we have widespread freedom of the press in this country, you know? Let's see, Matt, what'd you say? This is what Math Pig said. Where the link I can pretend to be a MAGA grinder for $2. Yeah, no, I read it. Spitting on somewhere here is just disgusting, not death-worthy. Well, yeah, exactly. It's not death-worthy by anyone's definition. Oh, you said, sure, why not? Shit. Dude. Math Pig, I really will have you on. Are you on a phone or what? Because if you're down, I'll start a new stream and me and you can co-stream for a while. I'll have you on the channel. Be fun. I just set up my new setup. Well, you might be able to fucking you might be able to come on even through desktop. But if you're saying you're down for it, like, what is the chat's interest in this? MathPig is a super fucking cool person. We could have them on, and I don't know what we'll do. We'll respond to the chat. We'll argue with each other, maybe. Who knows? You need to be on the Sam Hyde show? Do I? Well, put my name in his ear. I'm looking to expand my, sphere of influence. I'm like a country in the late 18th century. Oh, well, if it's too late, MathPig, you don't have to worry about it. Or if it's too early or whatever. But if you're down for it, there's lots of fucking demand. Do you have my Discord or anything? Think people are missing the point. These protests are out of hand. Some bill will written to take them away. These people doing this are only making it worse. People just don't pay attention. I don't agree at all. I think that it is actually proof that collective action is working and that the actions of the protesters in Minnesota has been working, that the DHS is not funded right now, that it's actually shut down. I think that fucking, like, the amount of pressure that has been put on the Republican Party and the Trump administration and their actions towards blue cities and states is shown in the amount of influence that's already being I think this is devolving. Basically, the shutdown is proof that this shit is working. The only reason why Democratic lawmakers and some Republican lawmakers have came over on this and have allowed part of the government to shut down in the first place is because there's been consistent, widespread demand from the American people across all kinds of cities, across all kinds of municipalities, online, offline. It's been a big movement of people demanding a change, demanding a redress of grievances. So I think the exact opposite. I don't think they're going to be able to write some bill to do away with them. What are they going to do? The First Amendment stands. I'm sorry. Trust me, you don't want to fuck with the First Amendment. Because the moment you fuck with the First Amendment is the moment some fucking Democratic president that doesn't give a fuck is going to get into office, and they're immediately going to start cracking down on conservatives. Trust me, please. You don't want to fuck with the fucking... You don't want to fuck with it. Do you advocate for demographic replacement? This is what we call a dog whistle. Demographic replacement is a crazy conspiracy theory that suggests that there is some Jewish cabal that has a plot to replace white people with minorities and people of color over a long period of time and is going to culturally normalize it and all this shit. When the truth of it is that immigration just kind of happens and people go where they need to based on economic and social factors driving them at that time, and that the overall trend thus far has been that as we continue to globalize, as nations continue to normalize their relationships, and immigration and tourism also become more possible between more countries, the more admixture happens, and it's a very natural, human, and completely acceptable part of the evolution of the human species. Eventually, we will all be some nice, even shade of beige. Where the fuck is my damn lighter? Oh, there it is. Stoner problems. MathPig, do you have my Discord? What is it? Check my description. I believe it's down there. I don't think Kamala would have been better. I mean, I think she would have been better in the short term, but I don't think she would have been actually like what we needed. Like, I certainly was not advocating for people to vote for Kamala because I can't vote for any Democrat that doesn't want to completely change the system. Like, they need to support ranked choice voting, they need to support universal health care, and at least one other big piece of leftist legislation like massive infrastructure renewal with an eye towards public transit, or student loan forgiveness and free higher education going forward, something like that. So the fact that Jewish billionaires and orgs are pushing for deliberate replacement is proof of this? No, it is not. The fact that there's like a Jewish billionaire out there or two that is saying some crazy shit to some fucking media apparatus isn't proof of some fucking like giant conspiracy to replace you. I'm sorry, it's just not. People in power say all kinds of stupid shit. Look at the Epstein files, bro. It's all in there. See, it's fucked up too, because if you wanted to say the Israelis have an outsized amount of control over world politics, I would have to agree with you. But the moment you say the Jews have an outsized amount, I just, no, they don't. I'm sorry. Particular fucking Jewish people do. But the average Jewish person is a poor motherfucker. The average Jewish person is not fucking swimming in Scrooge McDuck pools of money. See what I mean? We won't be beige. Liberals say there is no white genocide, but they want it so bad. What the fuck, dude? This is the caliber of chatter I deal with, Math Pig. It's not enough for you to pretend to be a MAGA. You're going to have to pretend to be like a Nazi or something. So you might just have to be yourself. Alrighty, I saw it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end this stream. Yeah, I got enough pipe tobacco. I've got more there if I need to add some. I'm going to literally just end this stream, and I'm going to start a new one, and it will be a link that you're going to click, and we'll coordinate with that. Y'all need to fucking hit that subscribe button real quick and hit that bell so you get the notification for the stream that's going to go live here in a minute. I'm going to be talking live with Math Pig. I first met him when I was trolling Brett Keane in furtherance of a funny bit for Drunken Peasants. So it'll be fun to, catch up and react to your comments with a fellow commenter. See you on the flip side.